Because literally this week, I believe we might have just seen a $2 trillion America and Middle Eastern partnership reignite itself. Now, I know how crazy that sounds, but leaders from the UAE and Saudi Arabia have been meeting with not only Donald Trump, but here we have the brother of the president of the UAE meeting with David Sachs, and we can see there are some very influential hands being shaken here by the leaders of America and the leaders of the Middle East. And what we finally come to find out is that the UAE has invested $1.4 trillion into America and American companies, and Saudi Arabia has agreed to invest $600 billion into America and American companies. So I want to kind of ask the question, is the Middle East kind of realigning with America now that Donald Trump is the official leader? Because over the past 2.5 years, while Biden was at the helm, who remembers all the headlines? Saudi Arabia said, I want to join BRICS, the Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa coalition. We even saw Saudi Arabia and lots of other Middle Eastern countries say for the first time, I will actually accept Chinese yuan, Russian rubles for my oil. I will no longer accept only US dollars for my oil. So what did you think about the recent headlines here of the US leaders meeting with the leaders from the Middle East, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, it's the Middle East for a reason. It's the middle point of the world. It's where all the trade routes interact. And of course, it is the hotbed of oil, right? Energy that this whole entire planet depends on or runs on. So it is sort of the prize, and those who are able to hold their influence and sway over it sort of can hold their sway over the world, because not only is it the oil and energy there, but it is also the trade routes in the sense of the Suez Canal, right? The connection between the Mediterranean Sea and the Indian Ocean, the way that China can get their goods from China to Europe, and Europe can get out to the rest of the world. It's all right there. And so, I mean, of course, there's lots of interesting things going on in the Middle East right now. Israel is currently doing military operations in Palestine, and that has not ended. But there's the chess pieces are moving, right? And as you were saying, the BRICS coalition had tried to move in, and I mean, Saudi Arabia did join BRICS recently, right? But the new administration and Trump, it does seem as if there's more headway coming that way. So I mean, the Middle Eastern countries could also just be like the hot girl at the prom, right? Like everybody wants a piece of them, and they'll just take everything from everybody because everybody's throwing themselves at them. So it's definitely an interesting situation. The Middle East is just as important as ever. I mean, it was a disastrous 4 years really under Biden, where of course the Israel-Palestine conflict broke out, the horrible withdrawal from Afghanistan, which was just an absolute mess, and Iraq just literally falling into the hands of China. It really couldn't not have gone worse for Biden in the Middle East. But now it's a new administration, a new time, a new focus on it, and these guys are pouring a lot of money into the U.S. it seems, and I think that's part of the goal of these tariffs, and is to drive that investment on American shores, bring back manufacturing, and have this American renaissance. Will Trump have enough time and enough political will to see it through? I don't know. If the markets keep dropping, I don't know how long he can keep it up, but could be. In the end, I think he has what's best for America at mind, but we'll see if he can actually do it. It's a tall order.
Absolutely, it is, especially when we're seeing all of these countries kind of break partnerships and break ranks with America. This is a really cool little visualization that's showing us that 6 members joined BRICS: Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. So again, look at those Middle Eastern giants there, the ones we're talking about today, the UAE and Saudi Arabia. They are saying, yep, we're going to join with countries that are not aligned with what the West is doing. That is the entire idea of the BRICS: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. They've been doing their own thing for a very long time. And more recently, in the past year or two, they've seen a lot of other interests from a lot of other countries wanting to partner with them and not align with the West. So I do think it's really interesting. We are starting to see what looks to be a little bit of a pivot. And again, it's not just a pivot, but it's who's doing the pivoting. It's this gentleman, the brother of the president of the UAE. They call him the spy sheik, taking the AI world by storm. Look, these guys have a ton of money to spend. And what's really interesting is this gentleman, the spy sheik, he's also the UAE's national security advisor, which is a little bit interesting. He's not just the brother of the president, but he is a very important gentleman. And as we can see, he's not just met with the crypto czar, David Sachs, but he also met with the big dog himself, Donald Trump. So again, this is interesting. Are we beginning to see America realign with the Middle East after what has been 2 years worth of, let's just call it what it is, a fracturing of the petrodollar system? Who knows? Maybe we're going to do that.
Yeah, I think Sachs is making moves. It's all power, right? It's geopolitics is a chess game, and it is being upended right now. I think the America's leadership knew that things needed to change from the path that they were on, and just throwing money at problems like Russia, Ukraine, and Israel, Palestine was not going to work out in their favor. They needed to shift things up, and this is part of that shifting.
Absolutely. And the world looks as if it's continuing to converge on sound money. While we are talking about the UAE and Saudi Arabia, we should mention the fact that, hey, they have some of the largest sovereign wealth funds in the world. Two of the bigger slices on this pizza down here, well, three of them are Middle Eastern sovereign wealth funds. So this is looking at the world's largest sovereign wealth funds. We can see Norway's got a $1.7 trillion giant, but then we've got the UAE with the fourth biggest sovereign wealth fund, $1.1 trillion. We got Kuwait with a $1 trillion sovereign wealth fund, and we got Saudi Arabia, a $925 billion sovereign wealth fund. Now, this is a little bit interesting because America, Donald Trump recently, did he sign an executive order, Rob, to stand up a sovereign wealth fund in America? Now, before I show you the rest of this rabbit hole, just want to remind you guys, if you wanted to join in on the fun and also buy some Bitcoin, we always encourage you guys to check out what Rhino Bitcoin is doing. We call them the all-in-one Bitcoin super application for very good reason. They're the best place for you guys to buy your Bitcoin, but you can also sell Bitcoin on Rhino. You can send Bitcoin anywhere around the world using the Lightning Network on Rhino, and they're even giving you guys $10 of free Bitcoin if you sign up with Rhino and use a promo code Bitcoin News. So we always encourage you guys to check out what Rhino is doing.
The executive order is to investigate it, right? So they've got 6 months to put the plan together. That is Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, former CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald, who is the custodian of Tether's treasury bills, as well as a large Bitcoin holder himself. So yeah, there's the strategic Bitcoin reserve, which would have store the Bitcoin that the government already has. And then there's a question whether the sovereign wealth fund that Howard Lutnick is establishing could go out and buy Bitcoin as well.
Yeah, what I find interesting again about the UAE committing $2 trillion the Middle Eastern giants committing $2 trillion to invest into America, 1.4 of that coming from the UAE, is that America is the largest Bitcoin mining superpower of the world. I've got the Bitcoin mining by country visualization on the screen here for you guys. The darker the colors shows which countries have the most hash power. There's a ton of it in the southern parts of the USA. And if we have a look at it from an overall basis, we can see America has 37 0.8% of the global Bitcoin hash rate. Who's number 2 on the list? China. It's a little bit interesting. Kazakhstan number 3 there with 13%. But the question here is that, yes, we know that Saudi Arabia and these Middle Eastern countries have already heavily invested into Bitcoin. Dubai recently passed a law announcing that their citizens in the city are allowed to get paid their wages in Bitcoin. Obviously, there's no taxes on Bitcoin in Dubai, which is why it's a little bit of a quote unquote crypto hotspot. We can also see Saudi Arabia's $620 billion sovereign wealth fund has backed a ton of crypto-friendly VCs. So we know that the Middle East has been investing into Bitcoin for a while. I'm really interested what is going to be a part of this, new $2 trillion framework that's being invested into America. Is the Middle East investing into Bitcoin mining companies? Certainly a possibility. What are your thoughts on this whole topic, Rob?
Well, one thing that's common between Bitcoin mining and AI is power consumption, right? That is absolutely, there's just not enough power to run all the data centers that they have planned to come online over the next decade or so. And so that's just the fundamental thing that needs to be solved here. It's interesting. I mean, if you look at the miners over the last year, they've been horrible stocks, right? I mean, the stocks have performed really poorly since the halving last April, about a year ago. I mean, of course, the amount of Bitcoin mined per day gets cut in half, and that means that it gets twice as hard for them to create a profit. So Bitcoin miners have had a really hard time in America and pretty much around the world. You need the cheapest electricity possible to make any kind of money in Bitcoin mining right now. And that's, of course, why you see it in the most sort of exotic places around the world, right? Using hydroelectric power from rivers in Zambia, or running off of cheap coal in China. It's really, it's where you find electricity the cheapest is where you're going to find Bitcoin mining, and that energy is the common tie between Bitcoin mining and this AI infrastructure that would be built out in mass over the next 10 years.
Yeah, they're two very interesting technologies that kind of work hand in hand. That is for sure. I think Martin here has a great comment in the chat. The EU seems to be not only bashing and banning technologies like Bitcoin, but also useful technologies like nuclear energy, and just energy consumption is just regarded as being bad. Martin says here, real hard money like gold, silver, and Bitcoin are going to be king. Tend to agree with that. That is a great point. Just scanning the chat here, we have 4,654 of you guys live watching Rob and I talk about Bitcoin and boring macroeconomic topics on a Friday afternoon here. So thanks again for everyone tuning in. We'd love your thoughts on everything we've discussed so far. And if you did join the stream late, you can rewind and watch from the beginning of the stream. I think that's easiest to do on YouTube. So check us out over there.
I think one thing we gotta just talk on real quick before we head out of here is GameStop, dude. GameStop is buying Bitcoin. GameStop is issuing $1.3 billion in convertible notes, taking on debt in order to acquire Bitcoin. This was a meme that has been talked about for over a year plus. Like, what is GameStop going to do with the $4.6 billion that it's sitting in its treasury? It's obviously just getting eroded by inflation. They should pull a Michael Saylor. And we've seen the hints over the last couple of weeks, month. Ryan Cohen, CEO of GameStop, pictured with Michael Saylor. We saw Ryan Cohen go ahead and only follow 2 people on X, one being GameStop, of course, the other one being Bitcoin Magazine. This was prior to the announcement. And then this week they came out, shocked the world, and announced a Bitcoin treasury strategy as well. In the same week came out and said that they're going to do this $1.3 billion convertible note offering. So, I mean, this is game theory as well, right? I mean, this is uniting 2 of the most fervent retail investor bases in the world, GameStop holders, Bitcoiners. And I mean, it's been a down week in the markets for more of macro reasons, but this could be really quite the signal, the shot across the bow that tells the rest of corporate America that this is not just some fringe thing for companies like Strategy or MetaPlanet, but no, if you're a big retail name, you want to get some life behind your stock, you got to get some Bitcoin.
It's a great point. I'm shocked that the price of GameStop didn't do a ton. It did spike a little bit on the announcement. If we really zoom in here on a daily and get a little bit granular, we did spike from $22 to $29. And now we've kind of retraced all of those gains. And as you say, Rob, there could be other reasons for why GameStop has kind of been trending sideways here since 2021, since they had that massive big blow off top. And that's obviously right now the markets are selling off, which could be influencing this more recent red candle for GameStop. But again, it's like you say, it's huge. GameStop has $5 billion on the balance sheet. We recently had the pleasure of interviewing I'm going to call him a GME expert, Peruvian bull. He has well over 100,000 followers on Twitter, and he began gaining notoriety by talking about GameStop. And like you say, and like Peruvians said, they have been, a lot of people have been looking at why they've been raising so much capital over the past 4 years since they had this big blow off top in 2021. That really did literally break the markets. A lot of people were speculating, what are they going to be doing with that cash? We can kind of see since this 2021 parabola, they've really been trending sideways and down, okay? And throughout every single one of these big pumps and spikes you see on the chart, Ryan Cohen and GME have been raising billions of dollars of capital. Every single time the stock's pumped a little bit, they've been raising capital, sitting on their cash. And now they've deployed about 20% of that cash and said, we're going to use $1.3 billion to accumulate Bitcoin. I'd be really interested.
That's the thing. They're not deploying that cash yet. They're using this convertible notes, this debt to buy the Bitcoin, not using the cash yet. They have not announced how they would use the cash. So despite the fact they have 4.7, almost $5 billion sitting in the treasury, they're going out and adding another $1.3 billion by offering this debt so that they can start their Bitcoin accumulation with that.
Yeah, that's a great point. Great point. They've still got $5 billion they can deploy.
Yes. And what's also interesting, I mean, of course, in January 2021, GameStop was the talk of the world. It almost broke the stock market, right? The short squeeze, the hedge funds had a crazy amount of short interest on this one stock. The retail investors banded together. They kept buying it, forcing a short squeeze, forcing the hedge funds to buy up the stock, and just sent it parabolic, as you saw on the chart. And what's also interesting is that since they announced this $1.3 billion debt offering, the shorts are back. I brought up a chart of that on the Bitcoin news page yesterday that it went vertical, the amount of short interest on GameStop yesterday. And it's only second highest compared to the 2021 short squeeze. And so there is some dealing with the convertible bond offering with these short sellers. Those who buy the convertible notes, they also take out short interest on the stock as well. And I'm not an expert in this, but it's obvious to see that this does happen with MicroStrategy when they offer a convertible note, as well as with GME when they've done it. But yeah, the short interest is back, and could that lead to another short squeeze like we saw in 2021? And now fueled with Bitcoin rocket sauce.
That's the big question we might answer next week. With all that said, thank you so much to the 4,800 people joining us live.